So regulation is a big part, but also that shift from the merchant codes from cash.
On March 21st, 2018, 44 African heads of states and government meeting in Kigali, the Rwandan capital city, signed an agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AfCFTA, creating the world's largest free trade area. An achievement that many did not believe in, but that Africa should be proud of, as Wamkele Mene recalled at the second edition of the AfCFTA Business Forum, or Biashara Africa, held in the Rwandan capital from October 9th to 11th, 2024. Since the signing of the AfCFTA in March 2018, 48 countries have ratified the agreement, with negotiations of all protocols successfully concluded, according to its Secretary General, Mr. Wamkele Mene.
The level of ambition and commitment to get this done was unprecedented. At that time, those who critique us said Africans will not sign this agreement, saying Africans do not have a history of concluding what they start. The agreement was signed. Then they said, it shall not be ratified. President Kagame was the chairperson at that time. The agreement entered into force. The following year, in 2019, it became legally binding, the fastest instrument since the establishment of the Organization of African Unity to enter into force.
Significant trade flows have begun thanks to the AfCFTA Guided Trade Initiative, which was launched in 2022 with 7 countries. By 2024, 39 countries had joined the Guided Trade Initiative. This was one of the key announcements at the Biashara Africa 2024. The Guided Trade Initiative was conceived on the African continent as a provisional solution to launch preferential tariff trade between interested state parties that meet the minimum requirements to start trading under the AfCFTA. This initiative is designed to be a catalyst for trade facilitation between the states parties. This pilot phase was essentially reserved for trade in goods. Its evaluation proved conclusive, and the Secretariat intends to pursue the initiative by including services. Nearly 40 states parties have expressed interest in participating. With the theme Dare to Invent the Future of the AfCFTA, the 2024 edition of Biashara Africa was an excellent opportunity to ask the right questions, in particular about how to better involve the private sector in its implementation. One of the key points of this implementation is the creation of regional value chains to support and accelerate intra-African trade. Within the framework of regional value chains, a number of key sectors have been identified as priorities that should drive the African economy over the next 10 to 20 years. The automotive sector, even if it faces enormous challenges, is among the most promising if automotive policies are adopted and implemented by African countries. By 2035, Africa is expected to produce between 4 and 5 million vehicles, compared with 1.1 million in 2022.
African Association of Automotive Manufacturers is a strong driver or strong consulting if countries are interested in having these automotive policies to overcome the used car challenges, to implement trade-related investment mechanisms for car manufacturing, for suppliers to come to implement vehicle asset financing to address the affordability issues. Logistics for sure is one. To then one day move cars, like manufactured cars, from Egypt to South Africa, that's still a very long way, I believe. And I'm glad that logistics, transport and logistics is also one of the key areas of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement as a focus area, but that's not only for our industry. I think many industries are facing that.
Another sector is attracting particular attention from the AfCFTA Secretariat and the African Union as one of the most promising and therefore a priority for investment. This is the vaccines and medicines manufacturing on the continent. According to the World Health Organization, Africa imports over 98% of what it consumes in terms of vaccines, but by 2023, the Africa CDC had drawn up a clear map of the continent's production capacity with a target to manufacture 60% of vaccines requirement by 2040. A sizable challenge, but not impossible to meet, according to Africa CDC Director General, Dr. Jean Kasea. People who want to doubt that, let me just give you a figure. Look at a country like Switzerland with a population of 8.3 million. The pharmaceutical sector accounted for the largest share of Switzerland's exports in 2023, with almost 37% of all exports. This generated around 120 billion United States dollars, which represents 7% of Switzerland's GDP. So, when we transplant this sector to Africa, a market of 1.4 billion people, you'll see that we have a very promising sector. I am very sure, and I say this with a great deal of confidence, that investing in the manufacture of medicines, vaccines, and other healthcare commodities in Africa is a safe investment, one that guarantees our health security, economic growth, and job creation. And it's important to remind that in Switzerland, there are 135,000 people working in the pharmaceutical sector. So we can have millions of jobs created and indirect jobs that will come, and you'll see that it will become what we call a game changer. And so for me, pharmaceutical manufacturing is Africa's second independence. In order to increase the local production of goods and services on the African continent, and to enable countries to make the most of the benefits of the AfCFTA, the challenge of SMEs financing must be addressed. This crucial issue was also discussed at the Biashara Africa 2024 with a call for banks to find innovative formulas to address this challenge. According to the International Monetary Fund, more than half of the 40 million SMEs identified in sub-Saharan Africa have no access to credit. Yet, SMEs account for over 90% of the continent's businesses and 60% of its workforce.
But of course, the big game changer across both of these areas will continue to be IT, digitization. Of course, these days we have the very strong development of AI that comes on top of the normal digitization, and we expect this will really make it a lot easier for businesses, financial institutions to reach out to smaller entities, the SMEs, and serve them using different business models, as we have seen has been successful in a number of East and West African environments where basically you've had disintermediation of human beings using digital technologies, digital platforms to bring on board customers, serve them, process them much more efficiently at low cost. And so I think the future of cross-border trade finance, especially for SMEs, will be greatly enhanced by the development of continued technology and related new business models. But then, of course, regulation will continue to be key, and I think this is where the AfCFTAs of this world have a lot to do, to put the mirror up to African domestic regulators and entice them to relax some of these regulations.
Another crucial issue is the movement of Africans within their own continent, as the African Union notes the slowness of states in adopting the Protocol on Free Movement.
The question remains how easy it is for wafanya biashara, the traders we are talking about, to move across borders. The African Union Protocol on Free Movement of Persons was also signed here, a twin instrument to the AfCFTA, but it has not gained the same momentum. Though 33 member states have signed the protocol today, about 27 here in Kigali in 2018, only 4 have ratified it, which is less than 15 we need for the protocol to enter into force.
According to Rwandan President Paul Kagame, it is all a question of political will to improve the movement of people on the continent. Rwanda is one of 4 countries to have ratified the Protocol on Free Movement of People in Africa.
Indeed, Africa is capable of coming together to solve our own problems. But of course, I want to urge our leaders also to make sure that some of the things that stand in our way, that are actually not too difficult to address, should not continue to be the case. We need to fix our politics, our governance. And it all begins with mindset and clarity of vision.
The AfCFTA, one of the major projects of the African Union's Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, is intended to be inclusive, leaving no one behind, including SMEs, but also women and young people who make up more than half the continent's population. Some players believe that digital payments could represent an opportunity in this context.
The Protocol on Digital Trade aims to harmonize these regulations for those merchant payments to work. There's a big focus on remittances, and it's diluted the urgency for merchant payments, which is what is done every day, and trade is done every day, and we need them to work. So regulation is a big part, but also that shift from the merchant codes, from cash to merchant codes being the way of paying would be the responsible way for us to make these payments work. But they need to have the funds to get this done. They need to have the connectivity to get it done. The quality of service from the provider has to be perfect. How do we make these payments interoperable such that payment providers compete on only quality of service and cost of service? I think that's the job of regulators, and it would be great to learn from MTN what it will take to get there. The Alliance are ready to make it happen.
Apart from the conference side of Biashara Africa 2024, there were also exhibitors from a number of African countries, including young entrepreneurs and women who say they are ready to seize the opportunities offered by the AfCFTA. Some highlights of the single market project include the fact that it could lift over 30 million Africans out of extreme poverty. It is also expected to boost African income by 450 billion United States dollars by 2035, representing 70% of African income growth.